The chamber was impossibly vast. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood on a platform of dark energy that hummed beneath his boots, suspended above an abyss so deep that its bottom disappeared into shadow. Around him, rising in concentric circles like the interior of some ancient Colosseum, sat representatives from over 800 different species. Some breathed oxygen like humans. Others existed as clouds of gas contained in crystalline shells. A few were simply patterns of light that flickered with what might have been consciousness. Marcus had trained for this moment for 3 years. He had studied every known species in the Galactic Council. He had memorized their customs, their languages, their histories, but nothing had prepared him for the sheer weight of their combined presence, the knowledge that he stood alone representing a species that most of the galaxy considered dangerously primitive. The Vrelian matriarch spoke first. Her species had ruled their corner of the galaxy for 12,000 years before humanity had even learned to write. She was massive, easily 3 times the height of a human, with 6 luminous eyes arranged in a crown around her head. When she spoke, her voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Human Marcus Webb of the planet Earth, you stand before the Council of Unified Systems charged with 17 violations of the Covenant of Controlled Evolution. Your species has developed weapons technology that exceeds your assigned development tier by at least 4 levels. You have refused all requests to submit your military specifications to the Galactic Registry. You have claimed exclusive jurisdiction over your entire star system despite occupying only a single planet. How do you answer these charges? Marcus took a slow breath. Behind him, separated by a barrier of solid light, sat Dr. Elena Voss and General James Riggs. They had come to the council station as his advisors, but the rules were absolute. Only the accused could stand on the judgment platform. If this went wrong, they could do nothing to help him. I answer, Marcus said, keeping his voice steady, that humanity rejects all charges. We have broken no laws because we never agreed to your covenant. Earth was never contacted before these rules were established. We developed our technology independently without knowledge of galactic civilization. You cannot hold us to standards we never accepted. A murmur ran through the chamber. Several species made sounds that Marcus's translator struggled to interpret. The being called Tharn, an entity of pure energy contained in ceremonial armor, leaned forward from its seat among the council's 13 senior members. Ignorance is not innocence, Tharn said. Its voice sounded like wind chimes made of ice. When a species develops faster than light capability, they become subject to galactic law whether they consent or not. Your ships have been detected in 17 different star systems. You are no longer isolated. You are part of the community, and the community has rules. Marcus had expected this argument. He had a response prepared, but something made him pause. There was something in the way the council members looked at him. Not quite fear, but something close to it, unease, as if they were trying to convince themselves of their own authority. Before you pass judgment, Marcus said, changing tactics on instinct, I invoke the right of historical testimony. Article 7 of your own covenant. I request that the council review the archives of the First Age. The chamber fell silent. The silence was so complete that Marcus could hear his own heartbeat. Tharn's energy form flickered like a candle in wind. The First Age archives are sealed, the Vrelian matriarch said slowly. No species has successfully invoked that right in over 4,000 cycles. The information contained in those archives is considered too dangerous for general access. Then perhaps it's time someone looked, Marcus replied. Because I believe there is something in those archives about Earth. Something about my species? Something your council has either forgotten or chosen to ignore. A delegate from the Sorrow species, a creature that looked like a walking tree made of silver bark, rose from its seat. This is a delay tactic. The human seeks to buy time while his planet prepares for war. If I wanted to buy time, Marcus said, meeting the delegate's gaze, I would simply refuse to attend this hearing. Earth's location is known to you, but you have no idea what defenses we've prepared. If you truly believed we were primitive and weak, you would have simply arrived at Earth with your fleets and demanded our surrender. But you didn't, you sent a diplomatic summons instead. Why? The question hung in the air. Marcus could see it in their faces, in the way some delegates shifted uncomfortably, in the way others refused to meet his eyes. They were afraid, not terrified, but cautious in a way that suggested they knew something he was only beginning to suspect. The Vrelian matriarch conferred briefly with the other senior council members. Marcus watched their energy signatures flicker and pulse in what he assumed was high-speed communication. Finally, she turned back to him. Very well. We will grant a temporary suspension of judgment. The archives will be opened and searched. But understand this, human. If nothing is found, if this is merely a trick, the penalty will be severe. We will not simply quarantine your world. We will encase your entire star system in a stasis field. Your sun will stop burning, your planet will freeze. Your species will sleep for 10,000 cycles until we deem you suitable for civilization. Marcus nodded slowly. I understand the stakes. Begin your search. As guards escorted him from the platform, Elena managed to catch his eye through the barrier. She looked worried. She had every right to be. Marcus had just gambled the future of humanity on a hunch, on fragments of ancient text that Elena had found buried in restricted databases, accessed through methods that were definitely illegal. In the holding area, a transparent sphere that floated in the station's zero-gravity core, Marcus finally allowed himself to show strain. Elena and James materialized beside him as holograms, their real bodies still in the observation deck. That was risky, James said. The general's face was carved from granite, but Marcus could hear the tension in his voice. If the archives don't contain what you think they do? Then we fight, Marcus said simply. But I don't think it will come to that. Did you see their faces? They know something. Something about Earth. Elena pulled up a holographic display, showing the fragments she had discovered. The references are vague, but they're there. An ancient being, one of the architects who created the Covenant before they vanished. It left instructions, warnings, something about a world of water and iron in the third arm of the galaxy. That could be any planet, James pointed out. Except for this, Elena said, isolating one line of text. The symbols were old, from a language that predated most current civilizations. But the translation was clear: never challenge Earth. Marcus stared at the words. What did they know? What did the architects know about us that the current council has forgotten? They didn't have to wait long for an answer. 6 hours later, alarms began sounding throughout the council station. Not emergency alarms, but notification signals. Something important had been discovered. Keeper Zill, the council's chief archivist, appeared on every display screen simultaneously. Her species, the Archons, were known for their perfect memory and obsessive record-keeping. Her face showed an expression that Marcus's translator identified as profound shock. The archives have been opened, she announced. A file has been recovered, marked with authenticity seals from the First Age. The council is reconvening immediately. Ambassador Webb, your presence is required. As Marcus made his way back to the judgment chamber, he noticed something had changed. The delegates who had looked at him with contempt now watched him with something else: curiosity, concern, some with what might have been respect. The Vrelian matriarch was already seated when Marcus returned to the platform. She gestured, and a holographic projection filled the center of the chamber. It showed symbols that hurt to look at directly, as if they existed in more dimensions than human eyes could process. We found your warning, she said quietly, and now we must decide what it means. The hologram shimmered and resolved into an image that made every being in the chamber fall silent. It was a creature unlike anything in the current galaxy, massive and incomprehensible, its form shifting between states of matter as if it couldn't decide whether to be solid, liquid, or pure energy. When it spoke, the translation matrices struggled to convert its language into something the assembled species could understand. I am architect naming of stars. If this message is being viewed, then a species from the world we designate as Earth has reached the stars and encountered the civilizations we left behind. To the council, hear our words and heed our warning. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. Around him, 800 species waited in absolute silence. Even the beings who normally communicated through constant motion had gone still, the architect continued. We have seeded thousands of worlds with life. We have watched civilizations rise and fall. We have learned what makes a species survive and what makes them thrive. Most of the worlds we created, we made gentle. We gave them stable climate, abundant resources, and ecosystems where cooperation was more valuable than competition. These worlds produced the species you now call the galactic community. The image shifted, showing planets that Marcus recognized from council records. Verdant worlds with perfect weather, abundant food, and minimal natural disasters. But Earth we made different. Deliberately different. We placed it in a solar system prone to asteroid impacts. We gave it a moon that creates tidal forces and climate instability. We filled its history with mass extinctions, ice ages, and catastrophic volcanic events. We made it a forge, a crucible where only the strongest and most adaptable could survive. Dr. Elena watched from the observation deck, her hands trembling. Every human had grown up learning about Earth's harsh history, but to hear it described as intentional, as designed, was almost too much to process. The dominant species on Earth, the ones you call humans, are the result of 8 million years of relentless pressure. They did not evolve on a paradise world where resources were plentiful. They evolved on a death world where every day was a fight for survival. Their bodies are dense with muscle and bone, designed to function in high gravity. Their immune systems are aggressive enough to fight off diseases that would devastate species from gentler worlds. Their minds are wired for problem-solving under stress, for adapting to circumstances that would break other species. Keeper Zill stepped forward, her expression troubled. Architect, naming of stars, why would you create such a species? What purpose does this serve? The hologram seemed to look directly at her, though Marcus knew it was just a recording, because we knew what was coming. Because we fought them once and we barely survived. Because when they return, the galaxy will need defenders who were born in conflict, who understand war not as an abstract concept, but as a fundamental part of their existence. Tharn's energy form pulsed with urgency. Who is returning? What enemy did you foresee? But the recording was already continuing. We call them the Devourers. They exist in the space between realities, feeding on the energy of entire galaxies. They consume everything, leaving only darkness and silence. We fought them at the edge of our capability, and we realized that if they returned, our descendants would need champions. Not philosophers or poets, though those have value. They would need warriors. The image changed again, showing something that made several council members cry out in alarm. Vast shapes moving through space, things that were neither ship nor creature but something else entirely. Where they passed, stars dimmed and went dark. Humans are your warriors, the architect said. We gave them aggression tempered by empathy, intelligence combined with stubbornness, the ability to work together against common threats despite their natural tendency toward competition. We made them contradictions because war itself is a contradiction. They will fight you if you try to control them. They will resist any attempt to make them submit. But if you face the Devourers without them, you will fall. Marcus felt the weight of the galaxy's attention shifting. Where before he had been judged as a threat, now he was being evaluated as something else. A tool, a weapon. The recording continued. To the humans who are watching this, you were made for a purpose, but that does not mean you are slaves to that purpose. You have free will. You can choose your path. But know that when the darkness comes, and it will come, you will be the ones who stand between extinction and survival. Not because we command it, but because it is in your nature. You cannot help but fight against impossible odds. It is what you are. The hologram flickered and began to fade. The architect's final words echoed through the chamber. To the council, never challenge Earth, not because they will destroy you, though they could, but because you will need them when the true enemy arrives. Let them grow. Let them build. Let them become what they were meant to be. And when the time comes, trust them to do what must be done. The recording ended. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then the Valiant matriarch spoke, her voice heavy with implications Marcus was only beginning to understand. How long ago was this recorded? Keeper Zill checked her instruments. 8.2 million cycles. Just before the architects vanished from our dimension. And they created humans specifically to fight these devourers? It appears so. General James contacted Marcus through their secure channel. Marcus, I'm getting reports from our deep space monitoring stations. There are FTL signatures appearing at the galactic rim. Dozens of them. No, hundreds. They don't match any known species profile. Marcus felt his blood run cold. Elena heard the same report, her face going pale. The timing was impossible. The architects couldn't have known unless unless they could predict the future. Unless they knew exactly when the devourers would return and had timed humanity's development to match a delegate from the Harmony Collective. A hive species that prided itself on logical thinking stood from its seat. This is absurd. We are being asked to believe that an ancient species created a race of warriors to fight enemies that may not even exist. This could be a human deception, a fabricated recording designed to make us fear them. But Keeper Zill shook her head. The authentication seals cannot be forged. This message is genuine. The architects did leave this warning. More alerts began sounding. This time they were emergency signals. The Council's defensive network, a system that monitored the entire galaxy for threats, was detecting massive energy signatures at multiple points along the rim. Whatever was coming, it was coming fast. Tharn turned to Marcus. Your species has hidden ships. We know this. Our scouts have detected construction facilities in your asteroid belt, manufacturing on a scale that should be impossible for a species so new to space. If what the architects say is true, if you were made for this, then prove it. What can Earth do? Marcus looked at Elena and James. This was the moment. Everything they had built in secret, every defense they had prepared while pretending to be weaker than they were, was about to be revealed. General Riggs, Marcus said formally, what is Earth's current military status? James's hologram saluted. All defense fleets are ready for deployment. The gravity network is online. Our ships are equipped with weapons the Council has never seen because we developed them independently. We have 3,000 vessels ready for immediate launch, with production facilities capable of building 10 more per day. The Council chamber erupted in chaos. 3,000 ships? Most species took decades to build a fleet that size. Humanity had been spacefaring for less than 2 centuries. The Valiant matriarch held up one massive hand for silence. When she spoke, her voice carried a note that might have been respect. It seems the architects knew what they were doing. Ambassador Webb, Earth's charges are suspended. We have a more immediate concern. If the devourers are truly returning, we will need every advantage we can gather. Will your species fight? Marcus didn't hesitate. We were made for it. The Council's central command center was a sphere of light and data floating in the station's core. Marcus stood beside the Vrelian matriarch as holographic displays showed the approaching threat. The numbers were worse than anyone had imagined. The entities the architects had called devourers were not coming in dozens. They were coming in thousands. They're massive, a technician from the Scanner Guild reported, his voice shaking. Each one is the size of a small moon. They're feeding on stellar radiation as they move, growing stronger. At their current speed, they will reach the first inhabited systems in 72 hours. General James appeared on the display, now broadcasting from Earth's orbital command station. Behind him, through the viewport, Marcus could see ships launching from hidden facilities. Sleek vessels that looked nothing like the bulky cruisers most species used. These were built for speed and precision, designed by engineers who understood that in space, maneuverability was survival. We need to see what we're dealing with, James said. I'm sending a reconnaissance group to make first contact. They'll engage if necessary, but their primary mission is intelligence gathering. The matriarch nodded. What do you need from us? Everything, Marcus said, stepping forward. General Riggs will coordinate the military response, but I need this council to mobilize every resource you have. We need manufacturing facilities producing ammunition and parts. We need supply lines established. We need every species contributing whatever advantages they have. A delegate from the crystalline conjunction, a species of living rock, objected. You expect us to simply hand over control of our militaries to a species we tried to judge just hours ago? I expect you to survive, Marcus replied. The architects created my species for this exact situation. We have been fighting and killing each other for thousands of years. We understand warfare in ways your peaceful civilizations never had to learn. If you want to survive what's coming, you need to trust us. Dr. Elena had been working with Keeper Zill, accessing ancient databases for any information about the Devourers. Now she interrupted the debate. I found something. The architects left more than just warnings. They left tactical data. Information about how they fought the Devourers before. It's fragmentary, but it might help. The data appeared on the central display. Marcus studied it carefully. The architects had tried using energy weapons against the Devourers. The creatures had simply absorbed the energy, using it to grow stronger. Kinetic weapons had proven more effective, but the Devourers learned and adapted quickly. They're intelligent, Elena said. Not like us, but they can recognize patterns and adjust their behavior. The architects won their first battle by using unpredictable tactics, by doing things the Devourers couldn't anticipate. James nodded slowly. Then we need to be creative. Hit them in ways they don't expect. The reconnaissance group reached the Galactic Rim 6 hours later. Admiral Lisa Torres commanded the small fleet from her flagship, the Indomitable. She was one of Earth's best tactical minds, a veteran of the resource wars that had nearly destroyed humanity before they achieved global unity. Contact in 30 seconds, her sensor officer reported. I'm reading massive gravitational distortions. Whatever these things are, they're warping space around them. All ships, weapons ready, but hold fire, Torres ordered. We're here to learn first, fight second. When the Devourers came into visual range, even Torres, who had seen combat on 3 continents and in dozens of space engagements, felt her breath catch. They were beautiful in a horrible way, like living storms that moved with purpose. Their surfaces rippled with colors that shouldn't exist, and where they passed, space itself seemed to thin and tear. One of the Devourers turned toward the human ships. Torres felt rather than saw its attention focus on them. It's scanning us, her communications officer said. I'm detecting some kind of probe, not electromagnetic, something else. It's trying to read our ship's structure. Can you block it? Already trying, but it's adapting. It's learning how our shields work. Torres made a decision. All ships, scatter formation Delta. Activate gravity disruptors on my mark. Let's see how they handle physics being twisted. The human ships spread out, surrounding the Devourer. On Torres's command, each vessel activated experimental technology that Earth scientists had developed by studying the Council's faster-than-light gates. The devices created localized distortions in space-time, making gravity itself behave unpredictably. The Devourer hesitated. For a moment, it seemed confused as the space around it bent in contradictory directions. Then it adapted, releasing a pulse of energy that neutralized the distortions. It learns fast, Torres muttered. But we learn faster. Weapons free, target its outer membrane. Let's see if it bleeds. The human ships opened fire with kinetic weapons, railguns that accelerated metal slugs to relativistic speeds. The projectiles tore through the Devourer's outer layers, and yes, it did bleed. Some kind of dark fluid sprayed into space, freezing instantly. The creature screamed. The sound wasn't audible, but every sensor on every ship registered it as a wave of energy that made their hulls vibrate. Fall back, Torres ordered. We got what we came for. They can be hurt, but the Devourer wasn't finished. It moved faster than something that size should be able to, reaching out with appendages that seemed to extend from nowhere. One of Torres's ships, the Defiant, couldn't evade in time. The Devourers. Appendage touched the vessel, and the ship simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not broken apart. It was unmade, erased from reality. Emergency jump, Torres commanded. Get us out of here now. The surviving ships activated their faster-than-light drives and fled back toward the galactic core. Behind them, the Devourers continued their approach, slower now, more cautious. They had learned that this galaxy had weapons that could hurt them. Back at the council station, Torres delivered her report in person. The chamber was packed now, with delegates from every major species present. What she told them made several species call for immediate evacuation of the rim worlds. They're intelligent and adaptive, Torres said. They learn from every encounter. Our weapons work, but we can't fight them the same way twice. And they have the ability to simply erase matter. I lost good people to that. Marcus studied the tactical data. Earth had 72 hours to prepare a defense for the entire galaxy. It was impossible. Except that humans had built a civilization on doing impossible things. We can't stop them all, Marcus said. There are too many. But we can slow them down. Channel them. Make them come at us where we're strongest. The Verlian matriarch leaned forward. What do you propose? We sacrifice, Marcus said quietly. We identify star systems that are uninhabited or have small populations. We turn them into traps. We use stars themselves as weapons. The chamber fell silent. Several delegates looked horrified. To weaponize a star, to deliberately cause a supernova, was considered one of the greatest crimes in galactic law. You're talking about destroying entire solar systems, Keeper Zill said. I'm talking about survival, Marcus replied. The Devourers feed on stellar energy. We can use that against them. Draw them to unstable stars, trigger collapses when they get close. It won't stop them all, but it will thin their numbers. Tharn spoke, its voice like breaking glass. And who decides which systems are sacrificed? Who plays God with entire worlds? I will, Marcus said. If it goes wrong, blame Earth, blame me, but let us do what we were made to do. After a long moment, the matriarch nodded. Do it. We place our fate in humanity's hands. Pray to whatever gods you have that you're worthy of this trust, Marcus turned to Elena. Start identifying target systems. Prioritize uninhabited red giants that are already near collapse. We need to prepare at least 20 detonations. Marcus, Elena said quietly, this is going to change how the galaxy sees us forever. I know, Marcus replied. But we didn't come this far to let everything end because we were afraid of being the monsters? Better they fear us and survive than love us and die? The first. Battle occurred at a system the Council designated as Outpost 73. It was a red giant star with 3 barren rocky planets and no native life. Earth's engineers had spent 60 hours preparing it, destabilizing the star's core and positioning gravity anchors that would trigger a controlled collapse when activated. Admiral Torres commanded the defense fleet from a safe distance. Beside her, human vessels flew ships from 40 different species, all following the tactical plan Earth had developed. It was strange seeing former skeptics now take orders without question, but the approach of the Devourers had a way of making old grudges seem pointless. Contacts at System Edge, the sensor officer reported. 12 Devourers moving in formation. They're heading for the star. Just like we predicted, Torres said. They need to feed before pushing deeper into the galaxy. Let them get close. The Devourers moved through the system like sharks, massive and terrible. As they approached the red giant, they began to feed, drawing stellar matter into themselves through some process that human science couldn't quite explain. They're distracted, Torres said. All ships attack formation. Drive them toward the star's core. The combined fleet opened fire. Human kinetic weapons, Vrelian plasma lances, and crystalline-focused energy beams all converged on the Devourers. The creatures reacted immediately, trying to scatter, but the fleet had positioned itself to herd them exactly where Earth wanted them. They're learning our pattern, the tactical officer warned. 2 are breaking away. Ignore them, Torres ordered. Focus on the main group. Get them closer to the core. The Devourers fought back. 1 human ship, the Vanguard, was caught by that reality-erasing attack and simply vanished, but the other vessels pressed forward. accepting losses to maintain the formation. When 10 of the 12 devourers were clustered around the star's core, Torres gave the command, "Detonate!" The gravity anchors activated. The red giant's core collapsed in an instant, and the star exploded in a supernova that lit up sensors across 3 sectors. The devourers caught in the blast didn't even have time to scream. They were simply consumed, erased by the same stellar energy they had been trying to feed on. The 2 that escaped fled back toward the rim. But Torres knew they would carry information back to the others. The devourers would know now that this galaxy had teeth. Back on the council station, Marcus coordinated defense across hundreds of systems. The war room was chaos, with reports flooding in from every direction. The devourers were probing the galaxy's defenses, testing different approaches, learning. Dr. Elena worked beside him, analyzing the creature's behavior patterns. "They're not mindless," she said. "They're searching for something. There's a pattern to which systems they attack first." "What pattern?" "Systems with high concentrations of dark matter. They're not just feeding on stars. They're consuming the fundamental structure of space-time." Marcus felt something click in his mind. They're starving. These things, they need more energy than any normal universe can provide. That's why they move between realities. They consume one and move to the next. A new voice entered the conversation. It was Krell, a young observer from the Delphi species. His kind were known for their empathic abilities, their capacity to understand the emotional states of other beings. He had been studying the devourers from a distance, trying to sense their intent. "Ambassador Webb is correct," Krell said. "I can feel it from them, not hunger like we understand it. Desperation. They were driven from their home reality by something worse than themselves. They're refugees," the Vrelian matriarch turned to Marcus. "If they're refugees, can we negotiate?" "No," Krell said sadly. "Their need is too great. They require the energy of an entire universe to sustain themselves. They cannot stop feeding until there is nothing left to consume." Marcus stared at the tactical display, watching red markers multiply as more devourers entered the galaxy. They had destroyed hundreds with the star traps, but thousands remained. Conventional warfare would never be enough. "There has to be another way," Elena said. "The architects must have had a plan beyond just fighting them forever." Marcus pulled up the ancient files again, reading through the architect's notes with new understanding. Then he saw it, buried in technical specifications he had dismissed as obsolete technology. A reference to something called dimensional rifting. "They were trying to send them away," Marcus said. "Not kill them, redirect them." The architects were experimenting with opening controlled portals to other realities. "That's impossible," Keeper Zill said. "The energy requirements would be astronomical. You would need the power output of an entire star system just to stabilize a small rift." Marcus looked at Elena. "Project Exodus?" She understood immediately. 2 years ago, Earth scientists had begun a classified project, hidden from galactic authorities. They had been building something in the outer reaches of their solar system, using technology reverse-engineered from ancient gates and combined with human innovation. "It's not ready," Elena said. "We would need months to prepare it for actual use." "We don't have months," Marcus replied. "How long would it take to make it functional?" 2 weeks, maybe, if everything goes perfectly." "Then that's what we have." Marcus turned to the matriarch. "I need every species to contribute. Power generators, computational resources, whatever you have. Earth is going to open a door to another reality. We're going to give the devourers what they need." "You're insane," a delegate said. "Opening a rift to another universe could destroy us all." "So will the devourers," Marcus replied. "At least this way we have a chance." General Riggs appeared on the display. "Marcus, if we try this, we need to hold the line for 2 weeks. Can we do it?" Marcus looked around the war room. At species who days ago had wanted to imprison humanity. At aliens who now looked to Earth for salvation. At the impossible task ahead of them. "We're human," he said simply. "We specialize in impossible." The next 2 weeks became legend. Earth's forces, supported by the Galactic Fleet, fought a running battle across dozens of systems. They used every trick, every strategy, every desperate tactic they could imagine. The Devourers learned and adapted, but so did humanity. Admiral Torres became a ghost in the Devourers' nightmares, striking from unexpected angles and vanishing before they could respond. The Vrelian ships provided heavy firepower, while crystalline vessels used their unique energy manipulation to confuse the enemy's sensors, and slowly, day by day, Earth's Project Exodus took shape. A massive structure orbiting behind their sun, hidden from galactic observation until now. It was a gateway, a door into the infinite possibilities of the multiverse. On the 14th day, with Devourer forces pressing close to Earth's solar system, Dr. Elena activated the final sequence. The gateway opened, revealing a rift into another reality. A universe rich with dark energy, perfect for beings that fed on fundamental forces. Now they just had to convince the Devourers to go through it. The gateway hung in space like a wound in reality itself. It pulsed with colors that human eyes struggled to process. Flickering between states of existence, Dr. Elena watched from the control station, her hands moving across holographic interfaces as she maintained the delicate balance that kept the portal stable. "How long can you hold it?" Marcus asked. "An hour," Elena replied. "Maybe 2 if we push it. After that, the energy drain will start pulling power from Earth itself. We'll have blackouts across the entire planet. Then we make this count." Marcus opened channels to every ship in the defensive fleet. "All vessels, this is Ambassador Webb, fall back to the gateway coordinates. We're going to herd them through." Admiral Torres received the orders aboard the Indomitable. Her ship was battered, its hull scarred from dozens of engagements. She had lost half her fleet in the 2-week running battle, but the survivors were hardened veterans now. They had learned to fight creatures that could unmake reality. "You heard the Ambassador," Torres said to her crew. "Time to go fishing. Let's catch ourselves some universe eaters." The human fleet began a fighting retreat, drawing the Devourers toward Earth's solar system. It was the most dangerous gamble yet. If this failed, humanity's homeworld would be the first casualty, but Marcus had faith. Not in divine intervention or cosmic justice, but in human stubbornness. They had come too far to fail now. The Delphi observer, Krell, worked aboard the Council command ship, using his empathic abilities to broadcast a message toward the Devourers. It wasn't words exactly, more like feelings and images: food, safety, home, the things any living creature needed. "I think they hear me," Krell reported. "They're responding. Not with language, but with recognition. They understand what we're offering." The first Devourers reached the gateway. They hesitated at the edge, their massive forms rippling with what might have been uncertainty. One extended a tendril toward the rift, touching it carefully, then it pushed through, vanishing into the other reality. "It worked," Elena breathed. It actually worked. More Devourers followed. Slowly at first, then faster as they sensed the abundance of energy waiting on the other side. The creatures that had threatened to consume an entire galaxy were leaving, drawn by the promise of a reality that could actually sustain them, but not all were convinced. A group of Devourers broke away from the main force, heading directly for Earth. Perhaps they sensed the trap. Perhaps they were simply too hungry to wait. Either way, they were coming, and they were coming fast. "Torres," Marcus said urgently. "We have breakers heading for Earth. Can you intercept?" "Already on it." The Indomitable and its escort fleet positioned themselves between the Devourers and Earth. It was 12 ships against 20 of the creatures. The odds were impossible, Torres smiled grimly. "All right, people. Humanity didn't crawl out of caves and conquer a death world just to die today. Let's show these things what Earth breeds. Fire everything." The battle was brutal and short. Human ships darted between the Devourers, using their smaller size and superior maneuverability to avoid the reality-erasing attacks. They fired kinetic weapons at point-blank range, tearing into the creature's membranes. 3 human ships were lost in the first minute, then 2 more. But the survivors kept fighting, kept moving, kept adapting, because that's what humans did. They adapted. The Vrelian matriarch watched from the council station, witnessing something she had never thought possible. A species barely 2 centuries into spaceflight, fighting creatures that could unmake matter itself, and winning through sheer determination. They're magnificent, she whispered. The breaking group of devourers realized too late that they had made a mistake. These small, aggressive creatures were not prey. They were predators evolved on a world where everything tried to kill you, and the only response was to kill it first. One by one, the devourers fell. Wounded, bleeding that strange dark fluid, they retreated toward the gateway. Not to escape, but because they could feel the energy calling from the other side. Even injured, even dying, they followed their need. When the last devourer passed through the gateway, Krell sent one final empathic message: gratitude, understanding, a wish for peace. From the other side. Just before Elena closed the rift, something responded. Not words, but emotion, thanks, relief, and something that might have been sorrow for the destruction they had caused. The gateway collapsed. The rift sealed. The universe returned to normal space-time. And for the first time in 2 weeks, the galaxy was quiet. Marcus stood in the council chamber, exhausted but alive. Around him, delegates from 800 species were silent, processing what they had witnessed. Humanity had saved them. A species they had tried to imprison, to contain, to control had stood between them and extinction. The Vrelian matriarch rose slowly. When she spoke, her voice carried throughout the chamber and beyond, transmitted to every corner of the galaxy. "We called you here to judge you," she said. "We believed you were dangerous, that your weapons and your aggression made you a threat to galactic peace. We were correct. You are dangerous. But not to us? You are dangerous to anything that threatens the communities you protect." She descended from her seat, crossing the chamber to stand before Marcus. For a moment they looked at each other, human and alien, representing two completely different ways of evolving. "The architect spoke once," the matriarch continued. "Never challenge Earth. We thought it was a warning of destruction. But it was a promise of protection. You were made to defend us, and you have fulfilled that purpose. The galaxy owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid." Marcus shook his head. "We don't want debt. We want partnership. The architects made us warriors, yes, but they also gave us choice. We choose to use our strength to protect, not to dominate. Earth requests a seat on the council, not as weapons, but as equals." The vote was unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, a species was granted full council status within their first century of contact. 3 months later, Marcus stood on Earth watching children play in a park. They laughed and ran, unaware of how close they had come to never existing. Above them, stars shone that had almost been consumed by darkness. Dr. Elena joined him. "The council wants to study our development. They want to understand how a death world creates such strong survivors." "Let them study," Marcus said. "Maybe they'll learn something. Maybe they'll create more worlds like Earth, breeding new defenders for the next crisis. And if they do," Marcus smiled, "then those new species will face the same choice we did, to be weapons or to be something more. The architects gave us a purpose, but we chose our path. That's what free will means." General Riggs appeared on Marcus's communication device. "Ambassador, we're receiving diplomatic requests from over 200 species. They all want to establish relations with Earth." "Of course they do," Marcus said. "We went from criminals to heroes overnight. Tell them we're accepting ambassadors, but on our terms. We're not weapons for hire. We're partners in building something better." Keeper Zill had discovered more files in the architect's archives, now that she knew where to look. The final message was addressed directly to humanity, to be opened only after the Devourers were defeated. Marcus read it alone in his quarters. The architect's words were simple. "Children of the Forge, you have proven yourselves. You have survived the crucible we created and emerged stronger than we imagined. You have saved civilizations that never knew they needed saving. Now comes your greatest challenge, peace. We made you for war, but war is not all you are. You have compassion along with your strength, creativity along with your aggression. Use these next centuries to show the galaxy that warriors can also be gardeners, that survivors can also be healers, that strength and kindness are not opposites. You were made to protect them. Now teach them how to protect themselves. The forge is cold. It is time to plant. Marcus closed the file and looked out at Earth, his dangerous, beautiful, impossible homeworld. Humanity had fulfilled its purpose. Now they would define their future. The ancient being had spoken once. Never challenge Earth. The galaxy had learned why. Not because humans were monsters, but because they were something far more valuable. They were survivors who chose to save others. Warriors who chose to build rather than destroy. And in a universe that often forgot the difference, that made them the most dangerous force of all. The most dangerous thing in the galaxy wasn't a weapon. It was hope, protected by those willing to fight for it. Retriclod can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.